Oh man, it was a victory Monday on the Big Douglas Show. It was a little nervous, and then a lot nervous, and then super excited. So it was a tale of two games on Sunday. Here to break it all down, I'm Big Doug. That's George Carmi. He's Aniba, and our guest today from the Sports Junkies is EB, the original EB. How are you, fella?
Hey, doing great. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Always pumped to have you on. First thoughts, EB, from the game yesterday.
Overall, I'm just thrilled we got the W, to be honest with you. It was one of those games I was kind of nervous about going into because, let's be honest. I think that I'm cautiously optimistic about this team. I think that we can do some things. But Vegas has got us winning 6.5 games, and everyone's just acting like this is a guaranteed W, and I don't know that those things exist with teams, like Washington with a quarterback in his second career start. I was very nervous about the game. I was hopeful and I thought we should win, but I was nervous, and it kind of played out the way I was afraid it would. Some mistakes, kind of beat ourselves a little bit. We gave them life, and we know how those things go. And, at the end of the day, I'm just thrilled we got the W. I saw enough positive things from Hal that I'm not super down about it. I'm frustrated that the offense wasn't more productive, but I'm still cautiously optimistic, and I'm thrilled with what the defense did. Honestly, I thought about it, and I said it on my radio show a million times. As I thought about it later in the evening, I didn't think about it at the time, but I started thinking about it. That really kind of reminded me of like Aaron Donald in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. Like Leighton, if you remember, where the Rams, you just knew the Rams were going to stop him, and he just took over.
Yeah.
And that just kind of happened in the fourth quarter. And I know it's the Cardinals, and that's fine. And I know it's Josh Dobbs. But those guys are the kind of the heart and soul of the team. And I was just really thrilled to see that. And so I think, I see a lot of positives. I saw the negatives. I saw the ridiculous, fumble and some of the near miss picks. I'm not stupid. I saw the sacks. I saw guys tripping over their own feet. The missed assignments too. But I thought there was enough good stuff to build on that I'm not too panicked yet.
Yeah, think about how many times the defense was put in a bad spot and only give that many points up. I thought it was huge because they also had an opportunity to put up 30 yesterday, I think fairly easily. Adam, I think one thing we saw yesterday, I think it was easy to get excited for the game, obviously for many different reasons. I was excited to be excited for Hal. And I think maybe we forgot this is a guy that's only played one professional football game before. And he's got a brand new offense and basically a brand new offensive line. I think we saw a bunch of that yesterday. I thought the offensive line maybe better than they were given credit for yesterday after rewatching that game. But I think that there is enough to get excited about. Adam, how did you see the offense yesterday?
Yeah, 6 sacks, that's never good. So, again, I rewatched it. It's not all on the offensive line. Definitely, a few reps where Hal, he didn't have to take as long. He had hitches. He had guys in the flat open. I think, he was trying to do too much early on, but I take solace in thinking that, he's going to make these stupid mistakes early on this year. So to get it in a win, I'll take it. But I have to say, walking away from this, I am concerned with the offensive line. I hope the play calling does adjust, more 12 personnel, more max protection, 19 carries, 59 yards for Brian Robinson. It sounds like a lot, but even though it was such a close game, I would like to see him, get a little more involved because, he's the type of runner that everything's going forward. They need to just keep getting those positive yards. But all in all, the offense, I think if anyone was, planning on seeing, a juggernaut the first week or two, I think you have to just be patient that this offensive line and how kind of still have to get things together. But yeah, lucky they have the defense that they do, because I think this is what's going to keep this team, in the picture, for the NFC East.
George, they were playing Chris Rodriguez a bunch yesterday after the fumble from Gibson.
Yeah, I noticed that actually. I talked about it on, offline. I'm surprised. I was surprised that Chris Rodriguez got a lot of carries in short yardage short yardage downs. But I think it was because of Antonio Gibson. EB alluded to it. He had a crucial fumble in the red zone, and he has propensity to do that. He's been doing that for years now. And it's funny, all season long, we keep hearing about how Antonio Gibson's going to dominate and how he's going to be an electric player in EB's offense. And we're not seeing that yet. As Adam kind of talked about it, Brian Robinson got a lot of carries. with mixed results. 19 carries for 59 yards. It's solid, but we can definitely get some more there. So altogether, though, I think you guys both had a fair assessment. I agree with Adam. I believe with Eric. Like, this is what we wanted to see. This is what we expected to see. I thought our defense was dominant. Our first-round draft picks, rose to the occasion. Montez Sweat had a great game. So then with Deron Payne. Sam Howell did have some growing pains, but at the same time, he showed some pretty good things. I was really impressed with his first touchdown pass, where he basically scrambled and kind of improvised and threw a touchdown pass to Brian Robinson. So I did like that, but he held onto the ball too long. Offensive line was decent, but it's a concern watching the Cowboys play and the Eagles play, and you just know that in the future something worse might happen. So we'll see how it goes. Wait and see approach.
Evie, I hate to tell you this, but I wasn't able to listen this morning. I'm curious, what was the vibe from the callers' reaction after the game? Because it wasn't the blowout that most people had hoped for, but still, W's are W's, right? And they're hard to come by.
I mean, I said this earlier. I think it's kind of like beauty's in the eye of the beholder. So, like with some of my colleagues, they're a little less bullish on how. They're more just sort of general, big picture, fifth-round quarterbacks never hit. I mean, you could point to a few exceptions, and I get that. That's one way of looking at it. So if you have this sort of negative thing, well, we're going to see why he's a fifth-round pick. You can look at the ridiculous fumble that he had, holding the ball too long, some of that stuff, and you can go see. And some of the near picks, I mean, they were clearly jumping some of those routes, right? Where they could have had a couple, no doubt. But I also saw, so I grant you that. But I also saw some big-time throws, I thought. I was actually a little bit disappointed looking at PFF's grades today. They didn't give him any big-time throws because I thought he made several. Or put it this way, with what we've seen here the last 20 years, those were big-time throws to me.
That throw to Cole Turner, we haven't had a guy that can make that throw to Cole Turner here in a long time.
Yeah, and so I saw a couple of them. Sideline, I think it was to Dotson. He's got a big arm. I love that he's not afraid. And is no fear, and that he makes a terrible play and he just bounces right back up and fires a tight window throw. So I love that resiliency about him. I mean, the question is he going to learn from his mistakes? Is he going to be able to grow? I think he will. I think he's a football guy. I don't think he's like RG3 who just like wants to do Subway commercials. You know what I mean? Like I think he wants to be a great quarterback. I don't think he cares. I heard stories. I talked about this on the air where he was like at Carolina and like every chick wanted to be with him and he just wasn't interested. Like the guy just loves football. He's like on the phone with his quarterback coach every night, so he's got the physical attributes. And so I think our callers reflected that. If they are anti-Hal and they're kind of like their bend is, it's just same old skins, we heard that. If they were, I believe in this team. They were optimistic. You know what I mean? It's whatever you wanted to see in this game, they gave it. They gave you good and they gave you bad.
George, they wanted the fans to come out and show out. I was at the game. You were at the game. Give credit where it's due. It was a nasty day. Although I'll say this, the sun came out in the second half and it was hot as hell. So we probably were happy that it was a little cloudy, but they showed out. And they were loud. What were your thoughts on the crowd that came out and just kind of the love and the vibes were just immaculate in the building yesterday?
It was definitely immaculate. You nailed it. Definitely. We had a whirlwind of emotions, a whirlwind of weather yesterday. It was crazy. It was drizzle, raining, hot, all over the place. But it was a great time. Doug, I saw you at the pregame for our tailgate. People were out there at 8 o'clock. They were in the parking lot at 6:30 waiting to get into the red zone lot, which is great. It was cool. I've been a season ticket holder for a couple of years now. Actually seeing a true, like, quote unquote, sellout was fantastic. I'd never seen it like that before. Like,
it was packed.
It was packed. I mean, with 2012 with RG3 was the last time I saw it like that. During the playoff game against the Seahawks, it's the last time I saw it like that, and it was great. And it was really cool seeing a true home field advantage. Like during third downs, like hearing the defensive chants and like having to get loud to have the offense be distracted. Like it was the first time in my experience seeing a distraction against the offense. It was a great experience altogether. So I was happy with it. I thought the entire time, Josh Harris, Mark Ahn, they seem to be doing things with class so far, kind of having the right perspective on things. They invited the alumni. We saw John Riggins. We saw Champ Bailey. We saw RG3 run out. We saw all of that. It is good vibes. I just hope they can maintain it. We have to win to keep the plate is set, but can the Washington maintain this and keep this for years and years? And the rest of the year, first of all, then years and years after that. But we just got to keep winning. We just got to keep playing well.
I heard a caller call in today and say, not on my show, but on one of the other guys' shows, that and because I haven't been there in years, but that the escalators haven't been working for years.
Yeah.
Is that true? I mean, I can't even fathom that.
So I go to the games. Escalators have worked for me, but like the total like grunginess of the stadium is very true. Like you go to the bathroom, it's leaking. It's like it's puddles on the floor. There's like, you know Pete Haley. Pete Haley had a picture about how like in the media room they actually had a soda machine for the media, but it wouldn't work. It's little things like that. I've sat in the obstructed view seats before where they wouldn't even have HD TVs. It'd be the old school box TVs that wouldn't even work at this point. So it was like total neglect, total non-love of the home, and you can just kind of feel that. And I think it just trickled down. If you don't care about the product, if you don't put any love into the product, the workers aren't going to be happy. It's going to create the toxic environment that we heard about. But Rick Snyder, who I'm pretty close with, he talked about how like they power wash the whole concourse. They power wash the steps leading into the stadium. There's a fresh coat of paint everywhere. They're trying to do things from the bottom up, which I do appreciate. So I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt for now.
And it was a little hard to tell yesterday because of the rain, because it was, there was just drizzle everywhere and it was coming down for periods. So it kind of made it look like the stadium was leaky. But I don't think that's what it was. You know what I mean? I just think that it was coming down so hard, particularly right there at halftime before the third quarter started. It was a little brutal for a second.
One thing I do want to say, you could tell the sponsors are definitely back and present. Like I've been there the past couple of years. Pepsi was clearly visible there. Bud Light was clearly visible there as well. And Doug, I don't know if you saw that, but like, you can see the imagery, big posters, big images. I sit in section 110. That's like behind where the screen, the big screen, the Jumbotron is right there. Right below it is like the Pepsi bar now. They actually had like new kiosks, which are basically like almost like almost like an Apple product. It was like a white touch screen pad, and you can do all these different things to facilitate the process there. In Legends Plaza, they had the Bud Light bar, which is pretty cool. Like, I don't know if you guys have been to Nashville before, but like Nashville's famous for like these like almost like for like bridesmaids party where they're traveling bars where you kind of like put these seats down and have speakers that are blowing out of there. They actually had that in Legends Plaza where you sat down. It was the Bud Light station, music, $6.75 beers. It was pretty cheap there. It's pretty cool. So like you could tell that people are investing, like at least companies are investing in the stadium again too, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and they were giving out stuff when you got in the door. They were giving out stuff on the way out, pennants and stuff. So, I mean, that's obviously an owner move. They didn't have to do that. They weren't like sponsored by anything. They were just, Commanders gear that they were giving out. So I think you could tell the vibe through that. It was cool to see a lot of the old players that just weren't interested in being around anymore were back and a part of the action. I want to get back onto the field just a little bit. Some of the things that we liked, maybe some of the things that we didn't like outside of the quarterback. I think we've kind of done that. For me, I'm becoming more and more frustrated with Gibson. I posted a little clip on Twitter earlier for when I was watching the game back, and his vision just is not good. And I don't think that's something that can be corrected. I think, let's just start throwing him balls on third down, like putting him out into routes. Handing him the ball, I don't think works very well. On my notes, I had Cole Turner will be stealing touches from Logan Thomas sooner than later. I think that's true. And 52 Davis, the big wheel route up the side, I'd like to know whose fault that was, because really the defense gave up 3 big plays all day. The only points they gave up outside of that was when the offense turned it over into minus territory. So those kind of were the ones for me. EB, when you were watching that game, what were some things that stood out to you outside of the quarterback?
Well, part of it, just let me just quickly say on how, and I might be in the minority on this, but I'd like to see him use his legs more, to be honest with you. Sure. And I know that makes him vulnerable to injury. He's just got to be smart. He's got a build that I think he withstand hits. We all got the same brain, though, essentially. And so he's got to be careful there. I'm worried about like concussions with him, and we saw it right away. But I'd like to see him utilize that a little bit more, sprint him out a little more. I like to see, obviously, I agree with you on Gibson. I think his 9th fumble now, maybe, in his tenure here. I know he only did it once last year and tightened it up. Let's hope that continues. But he can't revert back to old Antonio Gibson. We just can't tolerate. We can't accept it. Defensively, what would I have liked to have seen more? I don't know. I was pretty happy with them. I still would like to feel more of an impact from Jamin, but I think we have seen growth. I mean, he is fast as hell.
Yes, he
so
is.
I like that. Forbes made some plays. Our DBs are making plays. I mean, really excited about those guys. I also want to say, I guess you're asking me what I want to see more of. I just have to say, I want to compliment Ron, because I thought Ron, and I don't always think this, I thought Ron was on his game. I liked his timeouts that he took. In the years past, we just give up at the end of the half, and it's like really frustrating. And they were aggressive. They wanted the ball back. I liked the challenges. I mean, the challenge was ridiculous. It was a great challenge. That was a first down. I don't know what they were trying to not see or whatever. So I liked it. I thought Ron did a good job. I'd like to have maybe seen, I don't know, maybe a little more creativity offensively, believe it or not. Like, I thought that's what Bieniemy was going to bring. Yeah. And I saw good things, but I just was hoping to maybe see a little more mix, really utilize Sam's athleticism. And I don't know that we did fully.
Adam, tell me your biggest takeaways from the defense. It looked good enough to carry this team to wherever it is they're trying to get to this year.
I like what I saw, but again, I'm with EB. I want to see more creativity all around, because this is Arizona, so you're limited. When we start play, Sean Payton, Philadelphia, Dallas, I need to see more. And one thing I can say about Jamin Davis, watching his tape at Kentucky last year, having him rush the passer, that's an asset that they don't have from their linebackers. So I want to see a lot more of that. And in general, like, they got home on the 4-man rush, so give Jack Del Rio credit on that. But again, more creativity. Between Cam Crow, Jamin Davis, and some of the other weapons they have, they should be sending more blitzes. I think Arizona was really an opportunity to really let loose a little bit. With Joshua Dobbs, although he had some familiarity, they were running for really vanilla play calling. So I think this was an opportunity to really let loose. I'm not sure that that's what you should do against Denver. And not that I think Wilson is anything what he was, but I think you have to take definitely more of a cautious approach in the Sean Payton offense with Russell Wilson. So I would have liked to see them pin their ear back a little more, but I really think that especially even though people are giving up on Chase Young, I think if he can be there for this next game, his presence alone, I think, would just open up things for the rest of the D-line. And, we keep talking about the main guys, Allen, Payne, Sweat. But, man, James Smith-Williams, man, that guy is really looking good. There's no way they're keeping him. So, he's gone next year. But the ability to play inside and outside, really like what I saw. So, I just like to see him mix it up a little more.
It's interesting about Del Rio because he does not rush the blitz at all. And you're able to do that when you have 4 guys they can get after the passer that way. 92% of the snaps for John Allen. I really thought they did that all of last year with him and Payne. I really thought maybe they try to mix that up. Maybe the injury to Fedarian Mathis again has kind of kept them from being able to make that rotation. But I just want to say this about John Allen. 92% of the snaps, and he got better as the game went on. I just thought that was incredible. I mean, what a stud. Imagine the league letting him slip all the way down to whatever it was, 15th or 17th because of the shoulder, because I don't think he's had a shoulder injury since he's been here. I'm with you on James Smith-Williams. I've always been a big fan of his. You're probably right. They won't be able to afford him because if Montez continues like that, George, they're going to have to sign him a big check at the end of the year.
Yeah, 1.5 sacks. 1.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles for Montez Sweat is coming on. That's fantastic, right? I think the defense definitely came to play. Just kind of jumping on what EB and Adam was saying, like in regard to creativity, I thought Ron did a pretty good job kind of managing the game, but I felt he was a little bit too conservative during the fourth quarter. I don't know if you guys agree with me on that, but like I think we got the fumble recovery. We got on a first down. We were in a field goal range. And we ran it 3 straight times. Like I think on third down, I would have liked a bootleg from Sam Howell, potentially, run pass option. If it's not there, to slide, just kind of run the clock out. But if it is there, throw that, get a first down, get the kill shot, and just end the game right there. I'm not a big fan of giving the ball back to Arizona. I mean, Arizona isn't a great team, and our defense has been dominating all day long. So maybe that's the rationale behind that. But I'm more aggressive, basically trying to finish the game right there. But I do agree that at the end of the half, after Sam Howell had that kind of tragic turnover where the ball bounced in the end zone, they pushed the ball downfield. They got a field goal out of it. They were aggressive. And in years past, we wouldn't have done that. But I think Ron kind of had a pulse on the game. Where, like, the game slipping away, we kind of have to get back into this and make a big effort there. Finally, in terms of like snap counts, I know you keep talking about it, Doug, but looking at it over here, Benjamin St-Juste, Cameron Curl, Derek Forrest, Cody Barton, Kendall Fuller didn't come off the field last game. So that's fantastic. And honestly, I thought the secondary played a great job. But for all the kudos we give it the first team defensive line, I thought the Cameron Curl was up, great front fits. He didn't miss any tackles. I thought Derek Forrest played pretty well. It's funny. They're physical. They play strong. I'm really, really happy with our defense. Our defense is actually going to keep us in games this year. I guess my biggest concern is going to be offensive line, and can Sam Howell have these growing pains? Is Sam Howell going to throw the ball quickly? Because there were 6 sacks yesterday, but watching the game again this morning, there was ample time produced by the offensive line. It wasn't awful. I mean, it wasn't fantastic, but it's good enough. And we keep hearing that EB's offense is quick. It's a West Coast. It's 3-step drops and go. I wasn't seeing that yesterday. Maybe it was Sam Howell not reading the progressions fast enough. Maybe he was nervous, but that's something to keep an eye on moving forward, I think, for sure.
I definitely think he changed just a little bit after he took that early hit. I thought maybe he actually could have sat a play or two and maybe, got it together. He wasn't terrible when he got back. And to your point about the second half, they basically ran the ball the second half. There wasn't a ton. They kind of switched that up. And maybe that's because he wasn't seeing the field well. I'm not exactly sure. I'd love to hear some of the coaches explain why they went so run heavy in the second half. But it was definitely noticeable. George, you have the PFF grades, right? What were some of the big standouts there to you?
So let me pull it up really quickly. So let's start off with defense. Jonathan Allen, a 90.2 overall grade. He was our highest achiever of the entire game. Abdullah Anderson got an 89.9. He only had 10 snaps, so kind of take that with a grain of salt. Montez Sweat, 86.4. James Smith-Williams, 79. Cam Curl, 77.9. So those are just the defensive grades. We can kind of focus on that for now. But, I thought our defensive line came to play, and they were as advertised. It's funny that Deron Payne doesn't have a high score, because I thought he played a pretty good game too.
The get off on that guy is incredible. I don't know if you remember the play, but he was like slanting inside, and the guy runs to the right, and he tracks him back down like 5 yards for a man that big to move that fast. Is incredible. George, did you say that Benjamin St-Juste played every snap yesterday?
Every snap. So look, according to PFF, there is 62 defensive snaps. BSJ 62, Curl, Forrest, Barton, Fuller. So the entire secondary and Cody Barton basically played every single snap last game.
Which means Emmanuel Forbes then didn't actually start.
So he played 40 snaps. So I guess I got to look into it more, but he didn't. He played 2/3 of the snaps yesterday.
Interesting. EB, they got no action out of the second, third, or fourth round pick this year. You give more credit to the front office for looking long term, or frustrated that they drafted guys that they probably knew were going to play this year.
Well, let's talk about him. Just remind me. So we're talking about Quan Martin, right?
Yep.
He's in the protocol.
With a concussion yesterday.
You had, what is it, Henry?
Well, it's Ricky Stromberg next. They take at center.
Right.
And KJ Henry came 2 rounds after that, right?
It was the 5th? Okay.
Yeah, it's Daniels, the left tackle, that they take in the third and the fourth. Right. So what is your question, though? Like, if they turn out to be great players, then that's good. But what does it say about Ron in the front office in a year when they needed to win? They drafted players like particularly Rick Stromberg and the left tackle. I don't think they had any chance of playing this year. I'm just curious, who do you get credit? Or
Stromberg got in a little bit.
Yeah, he did for Cosby. Yeah.
Did you notice that? You may not have
I
noticed
did not
that
notice
being
that.
it. Stromberg got in there.
What happened to Cosme? Because I did not notice that at all.
Concussion check.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stromberg got it for 3 snaps.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I think he'll be useful. I mean, listen, I don't know how to evaluate it. I feel like they've actually done a decent job, but maybe part of that is just because they don't cut their draft picks generally. And these guys are all still on the team. I mean, the early returns you heard on, what was it, Daniels were not good at all. But who knows? They're still young. I don't like to give up on young players. I don't know. I don't feel strongly about it. If you look at their roster, it's littered with guys that they've picked. I'll say that. Yeah. And if they hit on Hal, it makes up for a lot. And I think there's a chance they can hit on Hal. I really do.
It is the key to all of this is the quarterback position. Evie, I like the idea of him running one. There were not very many designed run plays for the quarterback yesterday. I guess I was a little surprised by that. And also, I thought maybe the game plan, I knew their game plan would be a little vanilla, but I was surprised that our game plan was so vanilla yesterday.
I thought so. I mean, sprint him out a little bit. I mean, roll him out, he's an athletic kid. And also, when he, I think he's a smart guy, could clearly make reads. Maybe after the first couple aren't there, just take off, man. You're so athletic. You're so gifted. Just take 5 yards on a nice little run and get down or get out of bounds. I think he's capable of that. So I don't know. I also thought I would see I agree with you guys on Gibson. I don't think he's a special running back, but he is great in the open field. I'm surprised they didn't give those guys more, the few passes they got were like screens where they had no real opportunity to do anything, utilize his pass catching skills more. I would have thought going in, this would be a year where Gibson would have 60 catches. That doesn't look like that's going to happen.
The funny thing is the screens are going to Brian Robinson for whatever reason. I don't think you guys caught that. It was really interesting. I don't get it. And then
and he's fine, but I think that's what Gibby's, sort of that's his MO. That's what he's really good at. So I don't know.
They did it with Samuel, and I think you can see what they expect from him. I kind of thought maybe they have some packages where they had both Gibson and Samuel on the field at the same time. They did some of that where I guess it was kind of like a wishbone with two backs to each side, but they didn't do that a ton. Adam, maybe it was just me. It looked like there was a lot of the time where maybe it was just a one read for Howell early on. I was a little surprised by that too. It was like check for Terry. If Terry's not open, then either dump it or go. Is that what you saw?
Yeah, I definitely saw hot reads in the beginning. I think it was just an effort to really get him comfortable. And I think as you saw the game go on, they, were asking him to, read the field a little bit. But, you're talking about the screens, the quick game and all that stuff. With an offensive line like this, that's just kind of getting together, gaining the chemistry, moving that pocket, utilizing what Sam Howell can do. Think about Geno Smith and these other guys. It's not really about getting them out in space to run, but they have the option if they can take the sideline or, literally, open up the field. This is where the tight ends can really, eat against the defense. And, Logan Thomas, I walk away. I'm still confused because I don't think it's a recovery thing from him. I just think that he has lost it. And I want to see, more Cole Turner. I just want to see them, play to what they have, more 12-man personnel, more max protect, because I think right now, I wrote an article about Sadiq Charles, Mark Shareth really loved what he saw in the offseason. But again, it shows you once you get in game situations, everything changes. And, I really wonder how long, not that Charles was, the only issue on the offensive line, but I really wonder, how quickly we're going to see this offensive line changed over. Because I do think what we see right now, this is not going to be, the starting unit by the end of the year. Not because of injury. I don't see all these five as starting caliber, along offensive line. So I think there'll be some shuffling going on. I think that they're going to have to do a lot of adjusting. We talked about prior to the show, the screen passes. I think you have guys that can do that. You have Dotson, you have Gibson, McLaurin, all of them. So I think this was kind of like a feel out game, but it was, to me, a little bit of a blown opportunity, because I think against an Arizona team like this, there's definitely things you could have tried that you're not going to be able to, really get away with in the next, 2-3 games. But it'll be curious to see the adjustments. This is when guys like EB really make their money. And, because again, he's auditioning for a head coaching job next year. So I don't think that he'll stick to the same thing every week. I think we'll see it, kind of change and morph with, his skill players.
Well, also too, I think you have to remember, I know that Andy Reid was very, very complimentary of Bieniemy and everything, and saying that he was, intimately involved in everything. But how many times did he truly call a full game? I mean, this is the first time, right? So it's a learning curve, I think, and I think the game got away from him a little bit, and it just came in to just win the damn game, and I think that might be why we didn't see more of what we want. And the weather, I think, was a fact. I think there were a lot of things going on there. second, quarterback making a second start, dazed and confused, So
they were hitting the hell out of him. Yeah.
I was going to say that. Let me throw that out to the group. I see what you guys are saying about like having him be more mobile, but he got pounded a couple of times. Like, is that something we really want to maintain and do? Like, I'm a little bit concerned by that. And then the other thing for the offensive line, one thing I wanted to see more, and we see it with Kansas City, is the offensive line typically would be more mobile and be more like a zone blocking scheme, or it'd be like a bootleg with the offensive line kind of shifting with the quarterback. I didn't really see that a lot yesterday as well. So that's something I do want to see. But I guess that's my question. Are you guys comfortable with Sam Howell taking a couple hits per game? How do you guys feel about that?
I think he's built way that he can withstand it.
Agreed.
But he's got to get down, like that. He could have avoided that sideline play. He could have gotten out of bounds a little quicker. You just got to you had your head on a swivel. Know these guys are coming for you. I mean, I don't want to say they were, trying to take him out of the game, but it almost looked like they were trying to take him out of the game. You know what I mean? They were very aggressive. Maybe it's just, hey, first game, setting a tone. No one's picking us. We're going to go out there and be physical. And they certainly were. So, but I think it's kind of like I had the same beef with Heineke. Heineke's arm didn't make him special. What made Heineke special, if there's anything, is his guts and his scrambling ability, frankly. And he didn't show it after a while. Like, he just sort of stopped doing it. And I think it's because he just took a beating. But Howell, I think, has the body type that he could withstand a few shots. RG didn't.
Yeah,
right? I mean,
I agree.
Part of the reason why I think Robert, was sort of legendary for being the first one in the building. And Shanahan said he wasn't in there watching film. He was in there lifting weights, because I think Robert knew he was a track star. And, he wasn't built
to
take those hits. But I do think Sam can take it. But, all these guys' heads are vulnerable. And those helmet-to-helmet shots are scary, no doubt.
You don't usually often see it, but you could at least from our vantage point, you could see that Brissett was noticeably
he was kind of laughing.
Yeah. He thought he was getting in there when they took Howell off the field. You could tell he was stoked. And when they were like, "Nah, get out of there, kid." I mean, he was definitely like, "Damn, that was my shot right there." I actually felt just a little bit bad for him.
I think he's going to get a shot, because as much as how many guys? I think I saw last year maybe 8 guys played all 17 games.
It's incredible. Yeah,
it's really hard to do. And JP Finley said, seeing him after the game, I mean, the guy, it was beat up. He took a pounding during that game. So, I mean, to George's point, it's got to be judicious. It's got to be smart. But I think you got to use the talents that got you there. I mean, look, you saw what he did
in college,
his junior year in college, and we've seen it in glimpses. He's got that ability, and that's what makes him special, the legs and the arm strength. I mean, he's got a unique skill set. Maybe be a poor man's Josh Allen, maybe, poor man, but, he's got some of those abilities. Or you'd say the other, like a better version of Taylor Heineke,
And again, I think it's important to note they didn't, but that offense could have put up 30 yesterday. There were a couple of times they were rolling when Gibson fumbles the ball.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they were rolling a little bit when Howell throws that interception. So,
I mean, think about it. Yeah, that's 3 guaranteed, right? If Gibson doesn't fumble.
That's right.
Now you got 23. If he doesn't have just the absurd fumble himself and don't just give him points, I mean, who knows? We could punt and hold them. You know what I mean? And it might have been a totally different game. Every game takes on a unique characteristic. And it's one thing we also talked about on the show today. We get all caught up in these singular moments, these singular games, but, momentum takes you a certain way, or a freak play, a freak bounce, whatever. And then next week, it's a totally different game. It has its own characteristic. So I'm not convinced that we're just going to give up 6 or 7 sacks every week and it's going to be a nightmare. I'm really not. I mean, we'll see what next week brings, but it could be totally different. I definitely think we're capable of scoring.
And on the one sack that I think Charles gets credited for, I saw that one today. I mean, it's literally B-Rob kicks his leg on the way through the hole. And see, Charles has already fallen to the ground by the time the defender shoves him the rest of the way and gets credited for a sack. So that's the other fluky thing where it's easy to say, like Dave was talking about the interior O-line here in the comments, like it's easy to say they gave up some sacks, but I really think like the O-line probably gets credited for 2 yesterday. Hal gets credited for at least 2 by holding on to the ball and then a couple of fluky ones. So I guess before we get out of here, Adam, I'll ask each of you, what do they need to get cleaned up by the time we're talking about this next week?
Yeah, I think it's easy with, the O-line. It's really, I think that's going to be on EB. This is where he's going to have to make adjustments. Knowing what he's got, high percentage plays, getting the ball. I want to see more tempo. We heard about that going in, and we really didn't see it that much. I want to see, although Hal, still young play caller, I want to see him audible into line. That's something we haven't seen in Washington for a couple of years now. So I want to see more trust in him with that. But the bottom line is just more consistency on offense. Because like you said, I think that Eric Bieniemy let it get away from him. I think, again, just my opinion, maybe he was just a little stuck on his call sheet. I think he should have tried to go a little outside the box. But watching the game again, the good thing, like you said, about B-Rob tripping the left tackle, these are fixable things. These aren't just like constant getting blown up every play. Like that's like, okay, we're screwed. We're dead in the water. I saw a lot of fixable things, especially with Sam Howell. I think with back-to-back games, which he's never played for Washington, I think he'll have the ability to clean them up, because that's everything I've heard. The North Carolina coaches I spoke to, anybody, one thing that he does really well is break down his own tape and break down the defense and really, adjust. So I expect to see a lot of adjustments going to Denver. And I really think we're going to see, a really different looking offense. Because again, maybe it's just me, but I have faith on Bieniemy that, he's going to mix it up in the coming weeks.
EB, the early line is Washington plus 3.5 next week against Denver. What do you think about the line? Is it tasty or about right?
I actually like it. I'll take Washington, and I actually like being a dog. And to be honest with you, and I know some guys talked about it. I know I mentioned it. It's kind of good that we struggled, because you're not going to imagine if we beat them 37-0 and we thought we were great.
I think you're right.
You know what I mean? So they struggle. It's great for the coaches. The coaches could go in there and say, guys, don't get high on yourself. You barely beat Arizona. You barely beat them. Yeah. So I think these guys have a lot to prove, not only to the fans, but to themselves, to the coaching staff. I think it might have been the best case scenario. Like win a squeaker, show a lot of your warts, and learn from it. I don't say if anybody is high and mighty and out there partying, that they don't belong on this team. And I think it's a character team. I think there's a lot of character guys in there, and I think they're honest in their assessments. And I think that they're going to work hard. And I love being an underdog in this situation. I think Denver's a game where typically, going to Denver's tough, sure. But, I mean, if we play well, we can absolutely win there. There's some other games I'm not sure we can win. It's going to take kind of a miracle. But they happen. We always win games that we never think that we'll win. We do it every year. But this is a game I think is very winnable. And going there as a dog, I love that.
I do too. George, what's the biggest thing you'd like to see them clean up before they head out to Denver?
So I think, honestly, I don't want to harp on it too much, but I do think it's the offensive line, but I'm going to take a different angle with it, right? I want to see continuity. I want to see chemistry, and I really want to see our run game become more effective, because I think going against these like high-powered offenses like the Buffalo Bills and the Philadelphia Eagles, the way to win those games is to ground and pound, right? I think we need Brian Robinson to get 100 yards and carry the ball 25 times to control the time of possession and just be effective. And I think our defense will be a guiding light there. So I think that's what I'm looking for. I want to be able to have effective running, because 3.1 yards per carry for Brian Robinson, that's tough. That's I haven't looked at it statistically, but over the years, year over year, it's like one of the worst averages in the league. That's pretty bad. You want to see 4 yards per carry, maybe 5 yards per carry if you really are excelling. So I want to see domination from the offensive line. Like I think if we can do that, we can be successful there. And then to EB's point, I just like the fact that we're learning while we're winning, because you start off the first game, you have no idea what was going on. I don't know if you guys caught Cody Barton's post-game interview, but he basically was like, we had no idea what Arizona was even going to run. He's like, when you walk onto the field as a first week one, there's no tape, there's no trend, there's no, it's a new offense. Jonathan Gannon's the coach now. So you're relying on your principles and your fundamentals, but now they're starting to see, if you're winning while you're figuring things out, that's a great trend to have. You can stack up win in September and then kind of win the close as the years goes on. That's a playoff team. So hopefully we can get there.
EB, what does the schedule look like for you guys this year with I know John Allen's back each week, right? You guys have Ron on each week again this year? Or no? What's the schedule look like for you guys?
We don't have Ron anymore because we don't have the rights to the team
Okay.
anymore.
Okay.
But we have John on to be honest with you, I'm the last person to ask those kinds of things. I know we have John on. We had him on today. So we'll have him every Monday, I think at either 8 or 9 o'clock. He's fantastic. He's way better than you would think, because he's a kind of a quiet guy.
Right.
But for
what are you trying to get
out?
What are you trying to get out of those interviews when you have the guys on?
I don't know. Just try. Listen, it's hard, especially because we have like GMs on and coaches on, and you're not going to get much. That's why I love Jay so much, because Jay would just be honest. Towards the end, he just had to shut up. But I mean, Jay's spectacular at the podium in interviews, and now he's even better. So it is hard. They're not going to be brutally honest with you about everything, but just insight. How are they approaching you? What kind of techniques were you using? We asked him about that sack, where the kind of the backhanded swipe, and he said, he admitted, he's like, I was kind of like blacking out, just, I was just reacting. You know what I mean? So those kinds of things. I'm not going to try to get him to talk bad about a teammate or anything like that. We're not trying to do that. Just whatever insights we can get that might be unique. That's what we look for the most. And then we have, like our guys like John Carmi on and various beat guys that every week and throughout the week, and maybe some national reporters. We always do that. So yeah, it's a great time, man.
It is. The vibes have never been better, and I hope they keep. I'll tell you what, if they go out and pull out the upset in Denver, that place is going to be rocking when the Bills get there, rocking. And if there's any way to pull that one out, I mean, you think about the momentum that this team's going to be on. I hate to get too far ahead, but I'm just thinking about how crazy that game will be if they pull out Denver. Because listen, while we've got a lot to clean up, and maybe the roster isn't the greatest, that Denver roster is not very good. I mean, I don't even know who they're.
It's a winnable game. It's a winnable game on paper going in. It's a winnable game. And, when I project, and I'm always wrong, but I had them win in week 1 and I have them win in week 2. I mean, I just think it's a game that, and really, if they want to be a playoff team that George, hopes that they are, and we all do, it's kind of a game that kind of must have.
I agree.
I mean, guys get hurt, and who knows? I mean, I think we did Philly a huge favor last year. We exploited their when we beat them, we exploited their weakness right at D tackle. They went out right away and addressed it, tightened it up, and went on a great run. Because that was a shocking game. So who knows? Maybe we'll be able to do something like that, exploit something with Buffalo. Don't rule it out. But Denver's a game where really, I'll be disappointed if we lose. And
I think all three of us in our season preview episode had them winning this game. It is a big game. You want to get to the playoffs or be competitive. These two are important. They did the first one. They've got to get this second one in my mind. It sounds crazy to say the second game of the season is an important game, particularly when it's against an AFC opponent. But I think it really is, because I think it really will set the tone for what they're trying to do coming back home against a Bills team that's hoping to get to the Super Bowl. George, Adam, we will see you next week for the same deal. EB, as always, we always appreciate your time, buddy.
Thanks, EB.
No, thank you. I appreciate you guys. Thank you very much.
All right. See you, fellas.
Oh, great one, guys.
All right, bye, guys. Thank you.
All right. Take care, guys.
All right. Thanks, EB. Cool. Thank you, Big Doug. Thanks, Adam. Appreciate it, guys. It's
All right,
fun.
fellas.
Have a good one, guys.
Cool. I see you.